Hi, and welcome to the set of About the Authors TV. I'm your host, Jake Brown. We're excited to share with you a preview of a few of the upcoming episodes starring the best-selling authors in the world that you'll see in full this winter on seasons 1 and 2 of About the Authors TV. Thanks for watching. We hope you enjoy.
I didn't write Rizzoli and Isles, the first Rizzoli and Isles book, until 2001, the middle of my writing career. Jane came first. Jane came in a book called The Surgeon, and she was not even the major character there. She was a minor character because it was about it was sort of a medical thriller, serial killer combination. And Jane was one of the detectives who was working the case of this serial killer. And I thought she was going to die. I just thought, oh, you're a throwaway character. I don't need to make you likable. You just come in and do your thing and be a bitch. And then when you die, we won't feel bad. But as the story went on, this is the thing about secondary characters. They develop without you thinking about them. They happen on their own. So you're not thinking too hard about them. And they acquire these characteristics that feel very organic because they happened on their own. So as I was writing the story, I realized that Jane was really interesting. She's the only female cop in this 12-person homicide unit, which was really realistic for Boston PD at the time. People didn't like her. She always has this chip on her shoulder for good reason, because they were ignoring her. She grew up with brothers, so she's used to kind of fighting back. And by the time I got to the scene where I was going to kill her, and if you read the story, you'll know where that scene is, I couldn't do it. I just thought, I like you too much. I respect you. I may not like you as a person. I may not want to hang out with you, but I respect you. So she survived. And I finished the book, and my agent said, well, what's next? And I said, well, I'm really kind of curious about Jane. What happens to her next? So that's how the second book came about, which was The Apprentice. It was because I wanted to find out, does Jane Rizzoli ever fall in love? Does she ever get happy? And that's when Maura Isles came in as a secondary character. Again, not somebody I thought was going to be continuing. And in fact, when she walked in, she was a big mystery to me. I didn't understand her. She had this shield. I just knew that she was very, very cool, very intellectual, and very standoffish. So by the end of that story, I wanted to delve into her. I thought, who is the real Maura Isles? And that's how the series began.
I decided I would put her as a young apprentice, somebody who meets Sherlock Holmes, interacts with him, learns with him, and becomes his partner, basically. So that's where the stories came from. You have Sherlock Holmes, and because I chose to have them start when Conan Doyle was finished. These are not Sherlock Holmes pastiches. They're not alternate histories that a character that sort of somehow doesn't appear in the stories Conan Doyle told. No, this is after Conan Doyle is finished with Holmes at the very eve of the Great War, 1914. The following spring, you have this Victorian detective who is retired to the Sussex Downs, which is a thing that Conan Doyle said about him. He's keeping bees, which is another thing that Conan Doyle gives us. But we know nothing else about him. What happened to him after Conan Doyle finished? We don't know. He just vanishes from the map. Except he is in Sussex. So Mary Russell, who is sort of fleeing from the world, and it's the war year. I mean, it's 1915, so the war is going on just across the channel. She meets him, and the two of them interact in some ways that I hadn't expected, and that's where the stories begin.
The nanny cam came into play on the last hour of the last day of writing. And by that, I mean, we were heading into copy editing. This was being torn out of our hands, and the book still didn't have an ending. We wanted to have what Emma calls the rant. It was really important to us, and it was important to the structure of the book, right? The air builds and builds and builds and builds in the balloon, and the reader is dying for Nanny to say all the things that we certainly never did. And the challenge was figuring out how to work that in a way that was believable. And there were a couple of aha moments. One was I said to Emma, we have to let Nanny be braver than we were. She went, oh, and then she realized that while Nanny still wouldn't say that to Mrs. X's face, we had to let her say it to something other than, you know, a diary or like shouting it into a pillow. So, or it couldn't be a dream sequence. It had to feel real. Then the second component was that we worked out a formula that we've used in all our other books and that I frequently recommend to clients who are writing in the same genre, which we call the Gandhi, the rant, and the heartbreak. And we feel that if you're writing in this genre, your ending has to have all three elements. So you need the rant, right? You need truth to power and you suck to work for. But then you need Gandhi, right? She erases the tape, or she thinks she's erased the tape. And what she says is, you are so lucky to have this little boy in your life. And I wish for you the opportunity to connect with him the way I have. And the heartbreak, which is goodbye. And if you have all three elements, then it works. And the thing that allowed us to do the nanny cam was they'd just been invented. I don't even think people really had them when we started working on the book. It was something that was just starting to be advertised. And it was Emma's idea. She said, what about this weird teddy bear thing people are using? And we're like, great. Like, and we did it like in an hour. We were just, you know, typing furiously and we're like, okay, done. We can let this go. We can let this go out in the world now.